Every year, billions of people ask one deceptively simple question. If major countries like the US can print money, why don't they just print enough to pay off the national debt? Or, better yet, make every citizen a millionaire? It sounds like the ultimate economic shortcut, a financial cheat code, and yet no major economy actually does it. The simple answer is that printing money is the economic equivalent of trying to cure a fever by breaking the thermometer. You don't solve the underlying problem, you just make the data look different right before everything collapses. The deeper truth is that printing money isn't wealth creation. It's a zero-sum game that destroys the value of every dollar in your wallet, every cent in your savings account, and every hour you've ever worked. It's a devastating, silent tax. Today, we're going to move past the simple answers. We'll look at what money actually is, how printing it triggers an unavoidable disaster called hyperinflation, and what the real-world human cost looks like when a government takes this so-called shortcut. To understand why printing money fails, we have to start with a fundamental question. What is money? It's not the paper or the metal. Money is merely a medium of exchange and a store of value. The dollar's value isn't guaranteed by gold anymore. It's guaranteed by two things: scarcity and faith. Scarcity means the supply isn't infinite. Faith means we all agree that this paper slip is worth the goods and services we trade it for. True wealth isn't about how many dollars you possess. It's the real goods and services the economy produces: the food, the houses, the cars, the technology. Money is just the ticket used to buy them. When a government prints $1 trillion new dollars, it doesn't instantly build $1 trillion new houses or invent a new cure for cancer. It simply injects more tickets into the system, all chasing the same amount of stuff. This brings us to the core economic law that breaks the printing press: inflation. Simply put, inflation is defined as too much money chasing too few goods. The increased money supply drastically raises demand, but production hasn't changed. The result is devastatingly simple. Prices have to rise to meet the new balance. If there are twice as many dollars but the same number of loaves of bread, that bread now costs twice as much. Your purchasing power has been cut in half.
The process doesn't stop there. It creates a horrific, self-reinforcing loop. Initial injection, the government prints and spends the new money. Price spike. Prices surge almost immediately as the new dollars compete for resources. Wage demands. Workers realize their paychecks can't buy food anymore. They demand higher wages. Businesses have to pay those higher wages, so they raise the prices of their products even further to cover the costs. The spiral. Now prices are even higher, requiring even more money to be printed to meet the new, inflated budget. This cycle quickly spirals out of control. Once people lose faith in the currency, once they realize that holding money means losing value every single day, they stop saving. They rush to spend every dollar immediately on anything tangible: canned goods, real estate, gold. This rush to spend further accelerates the velocity of money, making inflation worse. You transition from high inflation to hyperinflation, where the price increase is measured not by percent, but by the day.
History is littered with economic warnings, but the numbers alone don't tell the full story. We need to look at the human toll. The Weimar Republic, Germany, 1920s. This is the classic example. The German government, crippled by war debt, simply printed currency to pay its bills. The numbers became ridiculous. By November 1923, $1 US was worth 4.2 trillion German marks. Imagine this. A man in Berlin, Hirsch Schmidt, watched his life savings vanish in weeks. He needed a wheelbarrow, not a wallet, just to carry enough cash to buy a single loaf of bread. Stories recount people burning piles of banknotes in fireplaces because the paper money was cheaper than buying wood for fuel. Wages had to be paid twice a day because by lunchtime, the morning's pay was worthless. This economic trauma eroded social stability and trust, setting the stage for political extremism. Modern Venezuela. In our own time, oil-rich Venezuela used uncontrolled money printing to mask years of failed socialist policies. People couldn't rely on the currency, the bolivar, to buy medicine. Families broke apart as parents fled the country just to earn stable currency to send back. The bolivar became a nuisance. Merchants started weighing stacks of cash instead of counting bills. The story of a simple nurse whose entire month's salary couldn't buy a single chicken illustrates the profound theft that inflation commits against the poor and the middle class, the very people the policy was supposedly designed to help.
If the solution is so destructive, what are central banks like the U.S. Federal Reserve, the Fed, actually doing? Their job is not to print money for the government to spend. That would cause instant inflation. Their job is to manage the monetary supply to keep inflation stable and low, typically around 2%. They do this not by running the printing presses wildly, but primarily through interest rates. When the economy heats up and inflation threatens, the Fed raises interest rates. This makes borrowing money more expensive, which slows down spending, reduces demand, and cools inflation. Conversely, when the economy stalls, they cut rates. The limited currency you do see being printed is generally only to replace old, damaged money or to match the very gradual, sustainable growth of the economy, ensuring there is just enough money for the amount of new wealth created.
The lesson from history is clear. There are no shortcuts to prosperity. Governments cannot simply print their way out of poverty or debt. True, sustainable wealth is built on productivity, on creating more real value through innovation, investment, and hard work. It's built on making better tools, better systems, and more efficient factories. The desire to print money comes from a place of good intentions, to help people. But economics isn't about intention, it's about consequence. And the consequence of ignoring the value of scarcity is the immediate and certain destruction of the financial well-being of every single citizen. If history is so clear, why do we keep falling for the myth of the magic money machine? Do you think governments are doing enough to focus on real productivity instead of relying on monetary policy? Let me know in the comments below.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more amazing science. And as always, stay curious.